Spider-Man No Way Home came out in 2021. It's directed by John Watts and stars Tom Holland, Alfred Molina, and Willem Dafoe, and I'm very excited to give you guys my review for this movie. Be sure to check out my playlist, my previous Spider-Man movie reviews, as well. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel. Now let's get into this review. In this movie, Peter Parker's identity is now revealed and he asks Doctor Strange for help. When a spell goes wrong, dangerous foes from other worlds start to appear, forcing Peter to discover what it truly means to be Spider-Man. So if you guys have seen my reviews for Homecoming and Far From Home, you guys know that those movies I'm kind of mixed on. They feel like fun MCU movies, but for me they're lacking as Spider-Man movies. Spider-Man No Way Home for me is easily the best of this Homecoming trilogy. I really do like this one. For me, part of that is definitely due to nostalgia. There's a lot of nostalgia in this, and it works very well for me. But also, this movie for me brought back more of that heart that I want from a Spider-Man movie, where you actually see Peter Parker really struggling between being Spider-Man and Peter Parker. And the first two is like, yeah, it was kind of there, but not done in a great way in my opinion, and it wasn't really a driving force of the movies as much. This one, it's very much there. This movie like just beats down on Peter Parker, which hadn't really done in the same way since Spider-Man 2 with Tobey Maguire, and that's the stuff that I really like in a Spider-Man movie. It's like, it's not easy for him to be Spider-Man. There's problems with being Spider-Man and Peter Parker. That's stuff that I don't think the MCU has done quite as well as Sony has with their Spider-Man movies. This one, I feel like they finally brought it back and did it very well with Peter Parker's identity being known. People know he's Spider-Man. Some people are on Mysterio's side, think Spider-Man killed Mysterio when he didn't. So all that worked very well for me. I thought they did a really good job of that, and throughout the movie they sort of continued to bring Peter Parker down, and I really liked that. That felt more like Spider-Man to me. Plus, this movie finally has that sort of important Spider-Man moment where he learns with great power comes great responsibility. They bring back that line, but also more importantly, they sort of just have that moment, because they never had Uncle Ben in this iteration of Spider-Man or even mention of him, but they finally have that moment with Aunt May when she passes away. So that was great. They finally had that, so it started to hit home more real Spider-Man to me, at least for how I like Spider-Man and how I sort of view Spider-Man. And they sort of continue that to the end, where I feel like they're setting up more of that, what I view as anyway, traditional Spider-Man, where he's in New York, he's on his own, he doesn't have all this technology, it's just a cloth suit or a spandex suit, whatever, and he's just on his own trying to balance life. I like how they set that up at the end, where everybody's forgotten who Peter Parker is, no longer has his friends or girlfriend. It just felt like a very Spider-Man ending to me. It kind of reminded me a bit of the ending of the first one, a bit. So I really like that. I really hope they're going to continue with that trajectory in Spider-Man 4, but we'll see. But I really like that. So for me, this movie did do a lot to bring back that heart of a Spider-Man movie, at least what I view as that Spider-Man heart, what makes a Spider-Man movie feel like a Spider-Man movie to me. Plus all that, there's all of this nostalgia and fan service, and it works very well for me. Fan service can work or not work. In this one, it worked because it was fan service, but there's also purpose to it for the story. So I really like that. So you get all these villains from the previous eras of Spider-Man. You got Green Goblin, Doc Ock, Sandman, Electro, the Lizard. It was great seeing all of them. Willem Dafoe was fantastic as Green Goblin again. Alfred Molina, great as Doc Ock. Jamie Foxx, great as Electro again. Those three were fantastic in this. It was great seeing them back. I enjoyed seeing Sandman again and the Lizard. They weren't as focused on in this movie. Sandman, you get what he's trying to do, where he's just wanting to go back to his universe to be with his daughter. You get that. Lizard, it's not really given any motivation for this movie, which is a bit of an issue. It's kind of too bad. It's like they needed an extra villain. He was there, but it's like, is he wanting to go back? Is he wanting to stay here? They don't really make it clear what's his motivation with all this. Whereas the other ones, you can sort of figure it out, and even just how much the movie focuses on them and what their story is for this movie, it works a lot better. Like Green Goblin's like, okay, you get what he's about. Electro, you get what he's about. Doc Ock, they do that thing where he's sort of been corrupted by the arms, and then he's cured, and he's himself again. So you get all that, and you get, yeah, he probably want to go back to his universe. So that was great. It was really cool seeing these villains interact with each other again, and I really liked how when Norman Osborn and Otto Octavius met, like they knew each other already. Like in the Sam Raimi movies, they never interacted, and I don't recall Doc Ock ever mentioning Norman Osborn. Like he wouldn't know of him because he's being funded by Harry Osborn. But I just like the detail that in this, like they knew each other because they're both scientists, so it makes sense. So I like that. It's like a small detail, but I really liked it and enjoyed it. Again, the performances were great. It was sort of cool seeing them interact, like how Kurt Connors and Electro knew each other as well. That was really cool. Sort of their conversations could be funny sometimes, so I enjoyed that. And of course, for me, the big part, and probably for everybody, the big part was the return of Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield. Absolutely loved it. Well, like No Way Home's not quite my favorite MCU movie. I think everything from when those two come into this movie to when they exit may be my most favorite stuff in the MCU, because it just meant so much to me. Like again, nostalgia plays a lot to this, but it was so cool for me because Tobey Maguire is the Spider-Man I grew up with. I always picture him as Spider-Man. To me, when I think of Spider-Man, I think of Tobey Maguire. So it was so cool to see him on the big screen as Spider-Man, because like I grew up with his movies, but I never saw them in the theater. So it's cool to actually see him as Spider-Man in a movie theater for the first time. So that was awesome. And Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, both fantastic in this movie, especially Andrew Garfield. He really brought it to this movie. They carried on stuff from at the end of his last movie where you're sort of like, I kind of wish we got to see what happened after that. But they did some excellent stuff with him. Tobey Maguire, I loved how he was an older, more seasoned Spider-Man, and they're just small details that I liked, how when they're working in the lab together and Tom's going over, it's like, okay, I think I can get this cure for Electro done. I think I can get this cure for Sandman. But he leaves out Green Goblin. He's about to top up. He's like, and sort of leaves it. And I like how Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man like picks up, like, I could probably make a cure I've been thinking about for some time. That was cool. But also just like how he's sort of in that scene is like, when you're watching them, you're like, he knows what's up with Tom Holland. It's like, we gotta cure all of them, right? I just like that scene. I just felt like a mature Spider-Man, so I just really liked that myself. So all the stuff with them was excellent. I always have a smile when I see them on screen. Final battle with the 3 Spider-Mans was fantastic. Absolutely love it. And I love the scene where the 2 previous Spider-Mans come back into this movie, because it's not with Tom Holland. They get a scene before that, and they come through portals. And to me, honestly, that portal scene I like more than the portal scene in Endgame, which I know it's going to be a hot take, and I recognize the one in Endgame, bigger in scope, it's more epic, definitely, and it's a great scene still. But for me, like in Endgame, at the end of Infinity War, the way that ended is like, it was shocking, but you're like, yeah, I'm pretty sure all these people were going to come back. And they did. They came back. You knew they were going to come back. It was a year later, whereas when Andrew Garfield came through that portal, I didn't think I'd ever see him as Spider-Man again, and it had been 7 years. When Tobey came through, again, I never thought I'd see him as Spider-Man again, and it had been 14 years at that point. So it just meant a lot more to me seeing that, so that's why I prefer that portal scene. And like I said, everything with Andrew and Tobey once they're in that movie, I think all that stuff is my most favorite stuff in the MCU. The stuff before it is really good as well for the most part for me, but that's the part of the movie where it's like, yeah, that's what I want. So that was fantastic. So I have a great time with this movie. Again, a lot of it to do with nostalgia, but for me it worked very well. Like Andrew and Tobey, they served a purpose to this movie to help Tom's Spider-Man. It wasn't just a quick cameo or anything. So that was one thing I was nervous about with all these rumors that they were going to be in it, that it was just going to be a quick cameo. So happy it wasn't. As for issues with this movie, sometimes the CGI isn't the best, and there's stuff with sort of the middle portion of this movie with the villains. Like at first they're sort of at Doctor Strange's basement basically, and I was fine with that. Like I get narratively why that would be happening, because they need to keep them contained to send them back to their universes. But after that, Spider-Man takes them to Happy's apartment to cure them. That moment, there's some cool stuff going on, like interactions and some funny moments, but still, it's like, for a Spider-Man movie, having all these villains just in an apartment standing around's not the most interesting thing to me, and I think that may have been partly due to COVID restrictions. I'm not positive that's the reason why, but yeah, just there's that. So it's like, okay, not quite as interesting. Some of the Mysterio stuff that carries over from Far From Home, where people think Spider-Man killed him, I don't know. Like, I get why they did that to have this movie, but I'm like, there's so much there that I don't know if I fully buy it would go as far as it did with so many people believing Mysterio, not Spider-Man, because it's like, okay, you have these drones from Stark's, but you'd think before that video came out, when they went to clear up the place, they would find Mysterio's body wearing a suit that was not the suit that everybody thought he was wearing. It was something that would that the drones would use to, you know, create that suit. So I would have thought that would have made some things obvious. As well, they invested into what was happening at Stark Industries. You think somebody would be like, oh yeah, that guy Mysterio used to work for us. I just would have thought there would have been something like that. I don't know, just if I was like, if this was real life, I feel like that's stuff that would have happened. I'm sort of nitpicking here though. But yeah, there's just times where it's like, I can see some people still being against them, but I'm just not sure it would go as far as it did. Whatever. So yeah, there was that. But overall, really enjoyed it. Yeah, it kind of slowed down when they're all in that apartment. Some of the CGI is not the best. Doctor Strange, I'm like, yeah, I can get why people are sort of saying he seems out of character in this movie to just help Spider-Man that easily. I'm like, yeah, I can get it, but for me personally, just for this movie, I can roll with it. So there's stuff like that. But overall, I have a great time with this. I love this movie a lot more than I do the previous two. Again, nostalgia plays a big part of that, but I'm fine with that because I enjoy it. For me, I'm going to give Spider-Man No Way Home a 90%. Not quite my favorite MCU movie, but it's in my top 10, I'd say. So those are my thoughts on this movie. If you guys have seen it, be sure to let me know what you thought about it. As well, be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel. Be sure to stay tuned for some more reviews coming soon. Until my next video, take care, everybody.